The diner smelled like burnt coffee and maple syrup, the kind of place where the linoleum had worn thin in paths between tables, and the jukebox only played songs from before anyone working there was born. Claire wiped down the same counter for the third time that hour, her reflection ghosting back at her in the chrome napkin dispenser. Tired eyes, hair pulled into a bun that had given up around noon, the kind of exhaustion that went deeper than one bad shift. She was 32 and felt ancient. The lunch rush had died 2 hours ago, leaving only the regulars. Old Joe with his crossword puzzle, the book club ladies who ordered one pot of tea and stayed until closing, and now, through the glass door, she watched a man shuffle up to the entrance. His coat was too big, held together with duct tape at one elbow, and he moved like someone who'd learned to make himself smaller than he was. He didn't come inside, just stood there, hands shoved deep in his pockets, staring at the specials board like he was reading poetry. Claire's manager, Rita, clicked her tongue. Don't even think about it. Think about what? Whatever you're thinking. Rita had worked here for 20 years and could read her waitresses like morning headlines. We're not a charity. But Claire was already untying her apron, already reaching into her back pocket where her tips lived, a crumpled collection of 1s and 5s and a single 20 that was supposed to buy groceries tomorrow. Her fiancé, Marcus, was working double shifts at the hospital. They were saving for a wedding that kept getting smaller, kept getting pushed back, kept feeling like something that happened to other people. She pushed through the door. The November air bit at her arms. Excuse me? The man turned and she saw his face. Weathered but kind, the sort of face that had smiled a lot once. Maybe still did when no one was watching. His eyes were blue, startlingly clear, and when he looked at her, really looked at her, Claire felt seen in a way that made her throat tight. I'm sorry, he said immediately. I was just leaving. Are you hungry? He started to shake his head, then stopped, nodded once. Yes, ma'am. Come inside. I'll get you something. I can't pay. Claire held out the 20. Then, it's a good thing I can. His hand trembled when he took it, not from cold, from something else, something that made Claire's heart crack like river ice in spring. He didn't say thank you, not in words, but the way he closed his fingers around that bill, careful, like it was something holy, said everything. Rita sighed hard enough to fog windows when Claire led him to a booth, but she didn't stop her. Mercy had a way of being contagious in small spaces. Claire brought him the special. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans that were probably canned, but tasted like someone's grandmother had made them. Coffee as hot and black. Pie, because everyone deserved pie. He ate slowly, like he was trying to remember how. I'm Claire, she said, sliding into the booth across from him. Thomas. He set down his fork, looked at her with those clear blue eyes. You didn't have to do this. I know. That money meant something to you. She thought about her empty fridge, the wedding invitations they kept not ordering, the way Marcus held her at night like he was afraid she'd disappear. It means something now, too. Thomas smiled then, and it transformed his whole face. You're going to be all right, you know. Whatever you're worried about, you're going to be all right. She didn't know how he knew she was worried, didn't know how he saw straight through to the fear she carried like stones in her pockets. But something in his certainty made her believe him. He finished his meal, folded his napkin, stood with the careful dignity of someone who'd lost everything except his manners. I won't forget this, he said, and someday, when you least expect it, I'm going to make sure you know what this meant. Then he was gone, back into the November cold, and Claire returned to wiping down counters, to refilling sugar caddies, to the small ordinary tasks that made up her small ordinary life. She thought about him sometimes over the next year, wondered if he'd found shelter, if he'd eaten again, if he was all right. But life moved forward the way it does, pulling her along in its current. Marcus finally proposed properly, with a ring he'd saved 6 months for, and they set a date, a real one, circled in red on the calendar that hung in their tiny kitchen. The wedding was going to be small. Marcus's mother had passed years ago, and his father had disappeared when he was 7, walked out one morning for cigarettes and never came back. It was a wound Marcus carried quietly, the way some people carry old photographs. Claire's family would be there, her sister as maid of honor, her parents proud and weepy. But Marcus would walk down that aisle with an emptiness beside him, the ghost of a father who should have been there. She tried not to think about it, tried to focus on the joy instead of the absence. The venue was a small garden, strung with lights that looked like captured stars. September had been generous, offering them a day of golden sunshine and air that smelled like the last of summer. Claire stood in the bridal suite, her sister adjusting her veil, her mother crying the way mothers do, and felt her heart so full it ached. You ready? Her sister asked. Claire looked at herself in the mirror, The dress they'd found at a consignment shop, the flowers from her neighbor's garden, the borrowed earrings that caught the light. She looked like someone who believed in happy endings. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready." The music started. Her father took her arm. And then she was walking toward Marcus, who stood at the altar in his grandfather's suit, looking at her like she was every good thing he'd ever hoped for. But it wasn't Marcus that made her stop. It was the man, standing beside him, Thomas. He wore a suit now, clean-shaven, hair trimmed, but those eyes, those clear blue eyes, were unmistakable. He was crying, openly, and when he saw her see him, he smiled that transforming smile. Claire's father felt her hesitate. "You okay, sweetheart?" She couldn't speak, could only stare at Thomas, at Marcus, at the impossible truth arranging itself before her. Marcus was crying too now. "Claire," he said, his voice breaking, "there's someone I want you to meet, really meet." She reached the altar on legs that didn't feel like hers. "This is my father," Marcus said, and his hand found Thomas's. "We found each other. After everything, we found each other." Thomas's voice was soft, thick with emotion. "A year ago, I was at my lowest. I'd lost my job, my home, my sense of who I was. I was standing outside a diner, wondering if I even wanted to keep going. And then an angel came out and gave me $20. Claire's hand flew to her mouth. "That money bought me a meal," Thomas continued. "But what you gave me was bigger than that. You gave me back my humanity. You saw me when I was invisible, and I used that moment, that single moment of kindness, to climb back up. I got into a shelter, found work, started looking for my son." He turned to Marcus, and the love between them was so bright it hurt to look at. "It took months," Marcus said. "But he found me. He'd never stopped looking, Claire. He'd been lost, but he never stopped trying to come home." Thomas took Claire's hands, and they were warm, steady, real. "You saved my life that day, and because of that, I got my son back. I got to be here, to see him marry someone who has your kind of heart, someone who sees people, someone who gives their last $20 to a stranger." The guests were crying. Her sister was crying. Her father was crying. Claire was crying, tears streaming down her face as everything clicked into place. The way Marcus had been secretive for months, the mysterious meetings, the phone calls he took in the other room. He'd been planning this moment, this impossible, beautiful reunion. "I told you," Thomas said gently, "that someday I'd make sure you knew what your kindness meant. This is what it meant, Claire. This is the family your heart made possible." The ceremony happened in a blur of tears and joy. When the officiant pronounced them married, when Marcus kissed her, when they turned to face everyone as husband and wife, Thomas was there, his hand on his son's shoulder, and Claire understood in her bones that kindness wasn't just a transaction, it was a thread that wove people together across impossible distances. At the reception, Thomas pulled her aside while Marcus danced with her mother. "I have something for you," he said. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a check for $20. "Your loan," he said, smiling, "with interest." But beneath it was something else, a photograph, old and creased. Thomas and Marcus, decades ago, at a park, the boy small and laughing on his father's shoulders. On the back, in faded ink, "My greatest treasure." "I carried that picture through everything," Thomas said. "Every shelter, every street corner, every moment I wanted to give up. And now I have him back, because you reminded me that people could still be kind, that the world could still be soft." Claire hugged him then, this man who'd been a stranger and was now family, and felt the circle close around them, the diner, the cold November day, the $20 that bought more than a meal. It had bought hope. It had bought a second chance. It had bought this moment, right here, where everyone she loved stood under strings of light that looked like captured stars. Marcus found them, wrapped his arms around them both, and the three of them stood there, holding each other, three people who'd all been lost in different ways, and who'd found their way home through the simple, revolutionary act of seeing each other. The night deepened, the dancing continued, and Claire thought about how we never know, we never, ever know, which small kindness will change everything, which moment of giving will ripple out into the world and come back transformed into something so beautiful it takes your breath away. She'd given her last $20 to a homeless man. He'd shown up at her wedding as family, and standing there, surrounded by love, by laughter, by the gentle magic of human connection, Claire understood what Thomas had meant a year ago in the diner. She was going to be all right. They were all going to be all right. Because kindness, real kindness, doesn't end. It multiplies. It echoes. It comes back when you least expect it, dressed in a suit, standing beside the person you love most, whispering the truth we all need to hear. You are seen. You matter. Your heart makes a difference. The stars came out above the garden, and somewhere in the distance a church bell rang, and Claire leaned into Marcus, felt Thomas's hand warm on her shoulder, and knew, with the kind of knowing that goes deeper than logic, deeper than words, that this was what it meant to be alive, to give, to receive, to be part of the extraordinary everyday miracle of people saving each other, one small act of kindness at a time. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.